Do the Minnesota Vikings have major doubts about their first year starting quarterback, JJ McCarthy? A voice, a voice of reason, I should say, went on the Purple Daily podcast. And the Purple Daily podcast by Score North is really the epitome of podcasts. They are top notch. They do it all so well. And they had Ross Tucker join the show. And he's a former NFL player. And he weighed in on the ordeal. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to play his thoughts and we're going to react to it. Plus, the NFL is gay. What? I guess it is June. But first, I need to tell you about 5 Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis because they transformed our bathroom in 48 hours and completely changed the game. They're called 5 Star for a reason. And now we know why. Because they took our old, disgusting, and moldy bathroom and completely transformed it and made it a masterpiece, a talking point of our house. We went from disgusting blue floors, handrails everywhere, a step to get into the shower, which we hated, took up so much space, and in 48 hours, they removed all of it and remodeled all of it. A new sink, from 1 sink to 2 sinks, a new vanity, new surround, new shower, new everything. 5 Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis completely transformed our bathroom and made it what it is today. Free consultations available and affordable payment plans. 5 Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. They are the best. Don't wait 6 to 8 weeks for your project to get done. Get your project done in 48 hours. 5 Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. Contact them today. All right. Ross Tucker joined Purple Daily. What do you have to say, Ross Tucker?
So JJ McCarthy, this will essentially be his rookie season. Now, I will say this. I think was it against the Raiders he played in the preseason last year? He looked awesome. I was like,
we're still
holy
high
cow,
out. We're still high out
one. He looks amazing. But it's not just his rookie year. You know, he missed so much practice time. I just, it would be unusual if he didn't have some serious growing pains. And I'll say this too, guys. No matter what the Vikings say about JJ McCarthy and how much they love him and, he's the guy, they wanted Darnold back. And then when they weren't going to get Darnold back, they wanted Daniel Jones back, right? And they were offering these guys pretty darn good money. So as much as they're sold on JJ McCarthy, they weren't that sold, right? I mean, they were offering these guys over $10 million a year to come and be their quarterback for this year, or at least give them that option. So they have some doubt there about McCarthy and how ready he'll be, especially early. So I peg them and the Vikings and the Bears probably between 7 to 9 wins. Now, one of them could surprise me. The Caleb Williams, there's just a lot there that concerns me. I don't know if he's ever going to quite get there.
So a few things that he said. Some things I think is 100% right on. And there are other parts of what he said that I don't think is very accurate. We'll start with the inaccuracies first. The Vikings lowballed Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold was never going to sign that contract when he had one opportunity throughout his NFL career to sign big somewhere else. So it was reported that the Vikings offered Darnold about 1 year, $10 to $20 million, somewhere in that range. The Seattle Seahawks gave him $30+ million for next season. And apparently there's some language in the Seahawks contract where they can get out of it after 1 year without owing him too much in the future. But if you are being offered $37 million compared to $15 million, and this is your one big time opportunity to splash that you will probably not ever see again in the NFL, you are taking the $37 million. So he's wrong on the Darnold part. The Vikings were never going to bring back Darnold, although it was reported for weeks by the big time insiders that the Vikings were negotiating a contract with Darnold. But the truth is that they weren't really negotiating a contract. They were trying to. The Darnold camp was trying to get the Vikings camp to that $25 to $30 million range, and the Vikings camp said, no, we're sticking at 15. So that deal was never going to happen. Sure, the Vikings wanted Darnold back at a number, not at 30 million. So that was never happening. The next thing he was talking about, Daniel Jones. I do believe the Vikings wanted Daniel Jones back. I do believe that they traded for Daniel Jones last season because they were hoping that he would ease into a quarterback competition this offseason and that he would potentially be either the starter if McCarthy's not ready or the backup to McCarthy. And those are fine options. So I do believe the Vikings' plan or the Vikings' interest was to bring in Daniel Jones for another year. They offered him the contract. They offered him the 1 year, $15 million. But Daniel Jones made the right decision and went to Indianapolis because most likely he's going to have an opportunity to start. If not week 1, then probably week 8 when Anthony Richardson reveals who he is. So the Vikings did want Daniel Jones a part of their roster. And now the tough one, the interesting piece is Aaron Rodgers, because you have to look at this thing from two sides of the coin. One, the Vikings, according to Alec Lewis of The Athletic, said that they had legitimate discussions inside the building about bringing in Aaron Rodgers. Now, Paul Allen will say that there was never, ever a chance of that happening. So you got two conflicting sources by two reputable people inside the Vikings source room, inside the Vikings insider room. Now, here's where it gets tricky, because McCarthy is going to be a first-time starter. And Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame player, an MVP, and if he has an interest in being a part of your organization, I think the least thing you have to do is at least consider the opportunity in making him a part of the organization. So it's at least worth the discussion, because Aaron Rodgers has that kind of influence on an organization. His arm is one of the greatest arms the NFL has ever seen. So if he wants to be a part of your team, it's at least worth the discussion. However, here's where you've got to be careful. The discussion about Aaron Rodgers did not have to last as long as it did. When Kwesi went to the podium and he was asking questions, he basically said, you can't rule anything out. Well, you say that at the podium and people are going to run with that for weeks. The problem with the Vikings organization is also their greatest strength. The Vikings organization never says anything at the podium, which is their strength. They never call out players. They never throw anybody under the bus. They never eliminate possible scenarios from happening. But because they don't eliminate scenarios, it allows the media and podcasters and national media like ESPN and Fox Sports 1 to run with these crazy possibilities of, did the Vikings want Aaron Rodgers? So because they never killed that story, the story ran for weeks. And that's all we talked about on this podcast for 2 weeks. Rodgers this, Rodgers that. Rodgers, is he a Viking? Are the Vikings waiting on Rodgers? Is Rodgers waiting on the Vikings? It's all we talked about for weeks because the Vikings would not kill the story. The Vikings could have killed the story. And because they didn't kill the story and say, yeah, we aren't interested in Aaron Rodgers, it made the idea of questioning McCarthy's readiness to start and to be healthy a possibility. It made it realistic. So as much as Minnesota Vikings fans want to believe that Rodgers was never a possibility. One source said it was, and the Vikings, their discussion on Rodgers lasted way too long for it not to be a possibility. How long does it take to kill a story? Which tells me there was at least several people within the Vikings organization that were pro Aaron Rodgers. Now, maybe Kevin O'Connell wasn't. Maybe Adolfo Mensa wasn't. But there were some people within the Vikings organization that don't think McCarthy is ready to be that guy yet. There are some people, I don't know who, I don't know their titles, but the fact that there was a discussion this long about Aaron Rodgers being a member of the organization makes me believe that there are some people that don't think McCarthy is that guy yet. So it's fair to have a conversation about Rodgers, but the conversation doesn't have to last 2 weeks. It could last 30 seconds. It could last 5 minutes. You kill it, you leak it, it's done. They didn't do that. They did none of the above. And the story ran and ran and ran. So I'm sure the top decision makers at this point have trust in McCarthy, or they would have brought in Aaron Rodgers. Although that looks pretty bad semantically if you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers. There's just so many layers to Rodgers and McCarthy, because you bring in a guy like Rodgers, well, that makes McCarthy look terrible, and that makes it look like you're doubting the guy. But if you don't bring him in and you do doubt him, well, then down in the dumps your organization goes when you're trying to open up your Super Bowl window. So McCarthy and the Vikings, it's a layer that really needs to be dived into and peeled back for a long time, because there's no simple opinion or analyzation of, yeah, it was this, and this. Okay. The Vikings lowballed Darnold. They wanted Daniel Jones, and they considered it Aaron Rodgers. But the top echelon decision makers said no, although there were people within the Vikings facility that don't fully trust McCarthy to be the guy that's going to take the Vikings to the bowl in the first year of their Super Bowl window. So I think that's how we can break it all down. It's June, and we're going to dive into topic number 2. But first, I need to tell you about Hokeland Farm, because Hokeland Farm has the best beef in the world. My wife and I are proud buyers of Hokeland Farm beef. It's the best. Steak, beef. We're talking about grass-fed meat. The best for you, the best tasting. All you have to do is contact Jared at 952-491-1541. Hokeland Farm Beef. Contact them today and get the best juicy tasting meat and beef. Plus, it's cheaper. You go to the store and it's like $5-6 a pound. You buy this meat, it's like $4 a pound. And we're talking about grass-fed, top-of-the-line beef. Contact Jared at 952-491-1541. Hokeland Farm Beef. The best beef around. All right. It's June, which means Pride Month is everywhere. And with Pride Month being everywhere, 90% of organizations feel a necessity to change their colors and make everything rainbow, to send out social media posts and change the logos and get different uniforms and send out social media posts. Now, I'm not going to hide from the fact I am as well, that's not true. I'm not homophobic or anything, but I am not LGBTQ+. I am not a supporter of the movement. I am a follower of Jesus, and I don't think the movement follows Jesus. I think the movement is about self and not Jesus. So I am, I guess, anti-LGBTQ+ movement. I think we're all sinners in need of Jesus. I am broken and I need Jesus. I think they're broken and they need Jesus, but I think they fail to recognize that they need Jesus. So I am not pro LGBTQ plus. The NFL posts this video. Football is gay. This is what it says. Football is lesbian. Football is beautiful. Football is queer, life exciting, transgender, powered. I can't even read all that. Football is freedom. Football is American. Football is accepted. Football is everything. It's hard to read. Football is for everyone. Football logo. NFL probably supports LGBTQ plus. Let's see. LGBTQ plus youth with at least one accepting adult have 40% lower risk of attempting suicide. That's sad. TheTrevorProject.org/donate. Now, I understand that the LGBTQ plus agenda struggles with suicide and acceptance. But do they really struggle with acceptance? You have an entire month celebrating your movement. And it's a very touchy subject, so I'm trying to be careful what I say. Every professional sports league changes their color to support you, or at least 90% of them do. So is it really a struggling with acceptance, or is it, I don't know. But anyways, the overall point I want to make is that the NFL can get away with anything they wanted and do not have to fear pushing away any kind of fan base because they are king of the sports world. The NFL dominates everybody, and it's not even close. So the NFL can post this kind of stuff, even though people like me are against this agenda. And they can post this stuff, and people like me are still going to watch on Sundays. We're still going to watch Minnesota Vikings football week 1 through week 17 because football is king of the sports world. And they can advocate for Colin Kaepernick and advocate for Black Lives Matter and end racism and all of these social issues, because as much as people think they're going to turn away from the NFL, they always come back. Maybe there's a handful of people that left and still aren't back. But fantasy football is as popular as it's ever been. The NFL is growing internationally and in America every single year. The ratings never dip, although all you see everywhere else is ratings collapsing. In the NBA or Major League Baseball or hockey, the NFL is constant and it stays the same. So you see these posts by the NFL and the movements that they support and things that they stand up for, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, they're just going to turn off a fan base. The NFL doesn't have to worry about it, because even though I'm personally against that agenda and movement, because I think it creates confusion, it makes people think that they aren't who they really are. It's funny because it's not funny, but it's interesting because at the end it says if they have one supporting adult, they're less likely to commit suicide, which that's good, have a supporting adult or whatever. But it's like this movement in itself has created suicide because you are confusing men and women into thinking that they aren't who they really are. So you really think about it, and it's like the movement itself is responsible for suicide because it's confusing people. It's making guys think they're girls and girls think they're guys, and guys think they're non-binary, and girls think that they aren't who they are. They're theys and thems, and that's how you describe a group of people, not a single individual. They're hims are hers, and hers are him. The whole thing is confusing. And this movement, of course, is not going to take responsibility for it. They're going to say, hey, we're just trying to help people find out who they really are. Really? I'm a woman? If I was confused, I'm a woman? If I'm confused, I'm not a man, I'm non-binary? A movement helps people find their purpose. A movement helps people find out who they really are in God's image. And I'm broken and I need Jesus, and I'll say that over and over and over again. They're broken, we're all broken, and we all need Jesus. But the further you move away from Jesus, I can't support that movement. So I'll take a stand and say it. I'm not afraid to say it. However, the NFL, they can say whatever they want. Really, they can. They can get away with it. They could literally do anything. They could stand up for the most atrocious issue. Sorry, my nose is running like crazy today. Got that the drippiness. And nothing would happen. Anyways, thanks for watching and for making this podcast part of your day. Hit that subscribe button. And remember, 5-star Bath Solutions if you need your bathroom transformed in 48 hours. And Hoagland Farm Beefs, the best beef around. Rotationally grazed, 100% grass-fed, 952-491-1541. Thanks for watching and for making this podcast part of your day. This podcast had over 123,000 downloads in the month of May. Best podcasting month ever. So thank you for joining me on this podcasting journey.